721 here on the Big 550 KTRS. Senator Blunt's picking up his mail here at KTRS, so we thought we'd invite him in the studio and say hi. Hello, Senator Blunt.
Well, I do come by with some frequency, and I'm glad the mail was still here, and so thanks for letting me come in and pick it up.
You are in St. Louis. Why?
I was here yesterday. This morning, I've got 2 or 3 events. One is at Mercy Health Center. I've spent a lot of time talking to people trying to figure out how to make the new health care program work as employers and as individuals. Now I'm actually starting an effort to talk to health care providers and see the challenges that they're having. This is about the 4th of these kinds of meetings I've done around the state in the last couple of weeks.
What are some of the major questions you're getting?
Well, I think what you see in health care is they're concerned that the insurance component that was supposed to eliminate all of their other special programs, the disproportionate share for small rural hospitals, where if you have a disproportionate share of people who are either underinsured or on Medicaid, you get some extra federal money. That's scheduled to all go away. And, of course, people aren't now they're fearing that people, once they figure out that you can get your insurance once you get sick, that people aren't going to get insurance. They're not going to have the level of insurance that they thought they were going to have. So I think there are just some fundamental problems that make this a very unworkable challenge, but we'll see.
I thought you had to have insurance. I thought that was part of the whole.
Well, you have to pay a penalty if you don't have it, but the penalty's not very big. The penalty is something like $60 a month, and insurance is $600 a month. That's not very hard to figure out, particularly if you're young and healthy. You know, McGraw, this is also very dependent on young, healthy people buying insurance at higher rates than they've ever been asked to buy them before, because it collapsed the difference between the healthiest, youngest people you're insuring and the less likely to be healthy, older people you're insuring, where the most anybody pays can't be more than 3 times what the least anybody pays. And young people have never paid that kind of high cost for insurance before, and they were the biggest uninsured group. You got to assume they're going to be even a bigger uninsured group rather than a smaller uninsured group.
Last thing I want to do is correct you, Senator Blunt. You called it a penalty. I believe the Supreme Court Justice called it a tax.
A tax. I think you're exactly right. And
yes,
that's how they said that the federal government could actually make you buy a product that was commercially available.
I just want it on the record that Senator Blunt said I was correct. All right, I just want that on the record.
Well, now, you know, I'm one of the 3 non-lawyers elected to the Senate from Missouri in the last 100 years, so it's good I come here to my attorney.
Well, not that. Immigration is working its way through your chamber. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, we'll see. You know, the amendment that I haven't seen yet on the original 800-page bill that came from the so-called Gang of 8, the 800-page bill now has the amendment that we'll vote on today is 1,190 pages. A pretty big amendment.
Yes, it is.
It may be that it may meet the Nancy Pelosi standard of we'll find out what's in it after we pass it.
So the amendment is more pages than the actual bill?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is the amendment that says it's going to beef up border security.
I think they call it the border surge, actually, the maximizing the effort on the border. A lot of things in there that whenever I had an amendment that would have finished the fence and made the federal government meet some criteria every year before we move down this path in how we deal with people who illegally came to the country. People say, well, that's too much expense to build a fence. We'll see what those same advocates for this are saying now. The other thing, you know, you and I have talked about, I've always and we've talked about this one day in the studio several months ago, I've more and more become persuaded that there are, in essence, 2 places to secure the border. One is at the actual border, but one is at the hiring desk. Most people do not come here for a bad purpose. They come here to get a better opportunity. But if we really had at the hiring desk the right kind of clearance and E-Verify that would really work, I think that solves an awful lot of the problem of people who are coming here not to violate the drug laws or the money laundering laws or anything else if we had that, and I don't know that that's there.
Do you really want to put that level of onus on the business owner? They're busy trying to make business. Are they really one of the first lines of defense when it comes to immigration?
Well, I think they should be, but only if you have a system that really works. You can't put that level of onus on the business owner, in my view, and still base it on the 1930s technology vintage Social Security card. Some biometric card. For $100, you can buy a device and plug it into an iPhone, put a card and a fingerprint on it, and call into any database you want to. Any employer, frankly, could either afford $100 or have access to somebody that had a $100 device and check employees. But that would have to be a system that worked if you were going to penalize the employer for not using the system. It would have to be something they could rely on. I think that's very doable.
So where are you in this immigration bill? Are you for, against? Are you still debating yourself?
I'm on the leaning no list, and that's where I am. I think that the original bill, there was there was a Congressional Budget Office report last week that said, okay, if this bill passes, it will probably stop 2.5 million people over the next 10 years from coming to the country illegally. But for whatever reason, their estimate was 7.5 million people will still come illegally. We only have, in my view, one shot at this every 20 years or so. We ought to be sure we get this right. And there's no chance that the bill that's before the Senate right now would pass the House. Let's talk about how you make law rather than how you create a political talking point.
You really think this bill has no chance of passing the House?
I think it has no chance of passing the House, unless the Speaker changes his mind and decides that he's willing to bring a bill to the floor that a majority of Republicans wouldn't be for. He announced a week or so ago that he wouldn't bring a bill to the floor unless a majority of the Republicans in the House were for it. Not all the Republicans, but unless a majority of the Republicans could then join with enough Democrats to pass it, but a majority of his conference, not just 50 people in his conference.
There are people who are saying now that illegal immigration has virtually stopped. That border, there aren't a lot of Mexicans coming over into America for all sorts of reasons, one of which is our economy's been sputtering, so the jobs aren't here. But there are other people that are saying that they're staying home in Mexico. So the question going forward is, we're going to spend $30 million to secure the border, and how much more are these people going to filter into this country?
Well, it's an interesting question. And again, whenever I had an amendment to this bill that would have, among other things, finished the fence, a lot of people who this week will be supporting it with an amendment that spends a lot more money say, we can't afford that. How can we afford that? And, we do have the Mexican economy, our number one trading partner in an economy that's really growing. There aren't nearly as many Mexicans coming over. A lot of the people that come over the Mexican border are from the more economically struggling Central American countries. So there are people coming over the border, and they're coming over. I was with Senator Cornyn yesterday, and one night, in the last month, they were somewhere on the border of Texas. He's a Texas senator, and their number was that day 750 people tried to come over at that point in the border. Last year near Falfius, Texas, they found 149 bodies of people who coyotes were trying to sneak over the border, but part of that process is to go around the security lines in a very tough part of Texas. They gave them a milk bottle full of water and said, okay, we'll pick you up 20 miles down the road. And 149 of them never got there. So this is a problem we need to solve, but we don't have that many shots at solving it. We need to do our best to solve it the right way.
You can't talk immigration without talking about the illegal drug trade. And in America and in the states, you're starting to see some states vote for legalizing recreational marijuana, which is in contrast to the federal rule. Do you see a time where you could be in favor or the federal government would relax the rules and make marijuana legal?
No. I mean, I can imagine that might happen.
You wouldn't be for that.
I don't imagine me being for that.
No. Even though you're a freedom-loving senator, I'm a freedom-loving American, why can't I get high on a Saturday night in my house? I'm not bothering anybody.
Well, that is one way to look at drugs generally. I think marijuana is more dangerous than that and leads to other things. And, that same theory, I guess you could assume if other drugs that we'd probably quickly agree are really for sure dangerous. If you do that in your house all by yourself, is there anything wrong with that? I think probably so.
That is Senator Blunt. Senator, thanks for checking in. Interesting stuff. We'll watch this immigration debate, but you're leaning no as of right now.
I am, but I'm going to try my best today, now that I've got access to the 1,190 pages, to see see what's in there. But one of the things I've learned in Washington is if you've got an 1,190-page amendment to a bill that was originally 800 pages, that red flags are going up.
There you go. Senator Blunt, thank you for stopping by.
Good to be with you.
7:31 here in the Big 550, KTRS.